Welcome to the Jerome McClain Show. I'm your host, Jerome McClain, and let's get into our episode.
Intelligentsia, the endem of sarcasm, the nutty professor, to your whack-ass marmalade. It's T-Bone from T-Bone and Chick Brew in the morning. Now available in podcast format. Simply search for the T-Bone and Chick Brew podcast, available wherever fine podcasts are sold.
Welcome to the Rob Exchange Show. I'm your host, Rob McClain. Independent media that will not reinforce tribalism. We have one planet. Nobody's leaving. Let us reason together. Those who do not know history is doomed to repeat it. Those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it. If that is our quote for the day, let's get into the episode.
Yes, the United States began this. What country has invaded America? How many countries has America invaded? Please stop reading Hollywood scripts and realize which planet you're on.
I seem to think that 9/11 was an attack on America. Maybe you don't agree with that. Forgot about that one, right?
Didn't forget, I said country. You guys have got a Hollywood version of your own history. It's a joke from the outside. Nobody takes you seriously anymore.
Your gas went up 22 cents in 1 week. Goldman Sachs says this war is killing 10,000 American jobs every single month. And the White House just called it a temporary disruption. Temporary. Tell that to the truck driver who cannot cover his fuel costs this week. Tell that to the family staring at a grocery bill that jumped overnight because fertilizer runs on the same energy supply that just got shut down in the Strait of Hormuz. And while all of that is happening in real time, Stephen Moore sat in that studio and told the panel that Trumponomics is working, that this is the greatest productivity revolution in the history of civilization, that blind people are going to see and cancer is going to be cured. Meanwhile, Steve Keen and Professor Jiang, two economists who actually read the data, are sitting right next to him saying a 10% fall in energy means a 10% fall in GDP. That is not a recession. That is Great Depression math. And the Strait of Hormuz, the waterway 20% of the world's oil flows through, has been closed since March 4th. One of these men is lying to your face, and I'm going to show you exactly which one. I am Silas Miller. This is the Silas Wire. Let's get into it.
China really gets more energy through the strait than anybody else in the world, and therefore has a bigger vested interest, you would think, in getting it reopened as soon as possible. Why is China kind of sitting this out?
Well, China is not sitting us out. We have the ceasefire in place because China did a lot of backdoor diplomacy in order to pressure the Iranians to attempt a ceasefire. This is out of character for China. China does not like to involve itself in other nations' affairs. And so I think without Chinese pressure, we would not have the IRGC agree to the ceasefire in the first place. The issue is that the United States continues to be unreasonable in negotiations with the Iranians. The Iranians have done a lot in order to try to accommodate the Americans. But, you know, when J.D. Vance went to Pakistan for the first time to negotiate with the Iranians, basically, it was a very heavy-handed ultimatum to the Iranians. And after that, I think that the Iranians recognized that there really is no hope in negotiating with the Americans. The Americans want to escalate. Why the Americans want to escalate, we don't know, but we can expect that over the next few weeks, the escalation will increase. You know, Trump has talked about using U.S. naval ships to escort oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. This is clearly a provocation, and we might have a Gulf of Tonkin incident, which will allow Trump to justify a ground invasion.
Right, and a ground invasion, Steve Keen, would be, to me, just pouring fuel onto what is already a burning fire of mayhem over there, which I think could be horrendous for the United States.
Absolutely. And I think the soldiers on the ships are having much the same reactions. We don't know whether the nuclear aircraft carriers taken out by Iranian attacks or by sailors stuffing their own clothing into the sewerage system to block it and force it out of the conflict. Those are our two choices. You have probably the least willing American military in the history of America's military incursions, supposed to go up against a country of 90 million people who know they face an existential risk. It's absolutely ludicrous to be talking about ground troops going into that part of the world. And I've had, I'm not an expert in military matters either. We've all acknowledged that. But from what I've got from reports of people who I know are experts in that area, unless the Americans have Star Wars style weapons to use against the Iranians, and this is going to be a slaughter of those American troops. And then I completely agree. This has probably been set up as another false flag, which America should be famous for. The Gulf of Tonkin, which dragged them into the Vietnam conflict in the first place, was put across as an attack by American ships in international waters, was actually an American attack within Vietnamese waters. All this stuff, America sets up these wars and then loses them.
You described Donald Trump as an anarchist who behaves like a mafia boss with no idea of consequences. And you sent this message to world leaders: get rid of Trump, stop this.
Yep.
America has to concede defeat and step back to give us a chance to rebuild the world's physical infrastructure before global famine sets in. You added, it's a clusterfuck coming out of America. If you're going to see regime change to stop this war, forget about seeing it in Iran. You need to see it in America. I mean, that's strong rhetorical stuff there. Just explain what you're getting at.
Well, first of all, I mean, my perspective on Trump comes from having a personal relationship with somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, and everything. I mean, the one advantage of that relationship in the long term was I understood Donald Trump, I think, and that is that he simply wants to make himself the center of attention. And it doesn't matter how you do it. You make a center of attention by giving a nice dance or by invading another country. He just wants to be the center of attention. I think that's why he fell for Netanyahu's provocation, which 40 years of previous American presidents have resisted, and went in the belief that it would be over in a couple of days. I mean, all the talk about, we've got to get Iran to be reasonable, around the Iranian regime, yada, yada, yada. The very first thing the Americans did was assassinate the top leadership of the country, including the father and I believe the wife of the new leader. You want to be taken seriously as somebody to negotiate with? That just tells you don't negotiate, defeat them on the ground. And just like Vietnam was a war where they brought an enormous firepower and lost to a guerrilla army, this is bringing in enormous firepower and taking against a political system which has broken itself into 31 like heads of a hydra so that you can't take it out collectively. Mm. So all America's tactics have backfired so far. They'll continue backfiring. The only way out is for Donald Trump to declare victory while conceding defeat.
Stephen Moore, I mean, look, I can't imagine a scenario where Donald Trump tries to get out of this without at least presenting a case for total victory. That's his nature. But in terms of this war and the impact it's had on his legacy, how was the tariff war doing before all this? In other words, the Trumponomics, which he launched with a huge gusto, a kind of year ago, how was that playing out, do you think, globally before this? In other words, was his economic strategy, do you think, working? And has this put everything back? Or was it not really working and this is adding to the general sense of chaos?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Has anybody ever told you were over-opinionated? How about this one? You can talk about everything you like, but don't talk about religion. Don't talk about faith. Don't talk about politics. My name is Jerome McClain, host of Jerome McClain Show, and I want to introduce you to a show called Over-Opinionated with my friend from Southwest Virginia, Josh Scott. Josh has always been told he has been over-opinionated. He always tried to hold back these opinions, but he tried to back them up when he had to say something with facts and logic. Since he's grown up in many ways, he had to change a lot of his views and his opinions, as a lot of people should. He's not a millionaire from Fox News or CNN, Overopinionated with Josh Scott. You can find him on patreon.com/overopinionated at 679. You can also check him out on Twitter at NRV_guy79. Overopinionated with Josh Scott. Why, he is this soft-spoken guy telling you the truth. We talk about a lot of serious topics on this show. One very serious topic is women's health. One company that stood out to me was vslay.com because the owner is very transparent about her own struggles in the women's health department and has great customer service, great deals, and frequent sales. You can check her out, her great customer service, products about women's health, and frequent sales at www.vslay.com. That is www.vslay.com.
Well, first of all, I just have to say, I mean, come on. It seems like you all can't determine who's the good guy. Here's the evil. And by the way, I'm not even a big fan. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's my point. If you actually think that we're the bad guys and the Iranians the good guys, you have a personality disorder, my friend.
Sorry.
And it really is amazing that you think that we're the villains here and that this is a regime. And by the way, again, I wasn't even necessarily in favor of this incursion in the first place. But come on, this is a regime that was killing thousands, murdering their own people. This was the regime that's building a nuclear weapon. So how are we the bad guys by trying to save lives? And I do think, look, I think to Trump's credit, he did view this as a humanitarian mission to save lives that were being slaughtered. Now, in terms of our economy, look, we've had now 5.5 years of Trump's presidency with an incredibly strong economy. Trumponomics has worked. If it hadn't been for COVID, Trump would have been reelected with a 40-state reelection landslide. The economy was very strong going into 2026. And it's true that the Iran situation has really changed that picture dramatically, which is why Trump really needs to bring this to an end as quickly as possible. But by the way, I'm not just attacking Steve. I think there are a lot of foreign leaders too who can't seem to figure out who's the good guy and who's the bad guy here. That's very troubling to Americans.
I was facing being conscripted to fight for freedom in Vietnam. And the one thing that threw me is, why am I being conscripted to fight for freedom? Okay, you go into Vietnam, you attack it, your whole thing is about you're going to stop the communist invasion of Southeast Asia. Who was the first country Vietnam has a war with? China, the first and last war. But that turned out completely against what you thought was going to happen. Afghanistan, Iraq.
I was against all those things.
Well, you should be against this one as well. Grow up. Okay, if you can't realize that
I'm saying,
is the evil empire here, then you've...
So it's the United States. You're saying the United States is the evil empire.
Yes, the United States began this. What country has invaded America? How many countries has America invaded? Please, stop reading Hollywood scripts and realize this planet you're on.
I seem to think that 9/11 was an attack on America. Maybe you don't agree with that, but
yes, okay, that's one. Which country? I said before.
Oops, you forgot about that one, right?
No, I didn't forget. I said country, and no country that was a rogue, and the rogues came from Saudi Arabia, not from the bloody country you invaded and the results of it. You guys have got a Hollywood version of your own history. It's a joke from the outside. Nobody takes you seriously anymore.
Okay, no, before the evil empire, why is it every immigrant in the world wants to come to the United States?
Nobody wants to go there now, mate. You
right. You should be at the border. We have millions of people who are signing up to get visas to come to the United States. They don't want to go to any other country.
So, I forgot. I want to say this guy's name is Stephen Moore. He's a goddamn idiot. A goddamn smiling, red-faced fucking idiot. He just heard about all the bombings, and then he laughs. It says, why do people want to come to the United States? Well, because the United States is bombing the shit out of everybody else. Duh. Because the United States is bombing everybody else to smithereens. So we are the only game in town. Duh. Go look it up. How many bases does China have in the United States? Okay. How many bases does Vietnam have in the United States? How many bases does Russia have in the United States? How many bases do the Romanians have in the United States? How many bases do the Ukrainians have in the United States? How many bases do the Canadians have in the United States? How many bases do the French have in the United States? How many bases do the Saudi Arabians have in the United States? How many bases do the Koreans have in the United States? Now, while you ponder those very easy questions, because you know none, know that the last time I checked, we had over 850 bases around the world. People are fleeing and coming here because we are bombing everything there, and we are making the world so unsustainable that they have no other choice but to come here. That is elementary. Elementary. So some people like Steven get under my skin because they want to be taken seriously. And then it's like, well, they have to laugh at these serious situations because they know that it's our fault. This idiot wants to maybe take him serious as economics person, economics advisor, but he does not even know that the people who attacked 9/11 were hijackers. I want to say 18 hijackers, 19 hijackers, not the entire country of Saudi Arabia. If you ask somebody who's not as intelligent as he's like to pretend he is, they'll say the Muslims did it. Also, not a country. People like this are a damn embarrassment. I hope for their sake there's not a God when they die. They're going to bust hell wide open.
Want to come to the U.S.?
Look, from my point of view, let me be crystal. China's moved beyond cheap labor to advanced automation. Steve Keen has noted that if global trade stops, China has the internal infrastructure to survive, whereas the West has outsourced its survival. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the past couple months, China has been much more resilient and much more able to adapt to a new economic circumstance than other countries in Southeast Asia, especially the Philippines and Thailand. And Japan's also a lot of stress as well. So it seems that the Chinese government has been preparing for this eventuality for a long, long time. They've been very strategic. They've been very long-term in their thinking. The issue is that the long-term strategic scenario does not favor China because China is still an economy that depends on exports. And if there are these wars raging around the world, that's going to be very hard for China to export its manufactured goods to the rest of the world. The second issue is that China consumes a lot of resources. Yes, I do understand that China has renewables. I do know that China has a lot of inventory and stockpiles, but eventually all this is going to run out. So from a long-term strategic perspective, China is not as well adapted to a change as, say, maybe Russia or the United States.
Will what's happened here with Iran, and actually to a lesser degree, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which has also been now, we're 4 years in now, and it's becoming a real quagmire. Will what's happened deter China from invading Taiwan, for example?
I think that given the current geopolitical outlook and given the fact that this situation in Iran is only going to escalate, and this may have ripple effects throughout the world, I think that China is going to be much more cautious in its approach. In fact, we may see that China begins to become much more isolationist over the years.
Professor Zhang, just finally, are we heading for a global recession, do you think?
I think that we are heading towards a global depression, and this is a process that could take decades. We are in a new normal. We are in the undiscovered country. We are the level of destruction, the level of pain and suffering that we are moving towards is unimaginable. So, buckle up.
Can I answer that question?
Yes.
Look, we are entering the greatest period of the greatest productivity revolution in the history of civilization. Nothing will, over the next 10 years, we'll never see anything like what is coming with respect to this incredible robotics revolution. So that's going to raise living standards. This is like the
But is it though, Stephen? Because surely the big question with that is, if the future is robotic, then aren't humans just going to get screwed in the process?
No, it's like saying, well, gee, isn't a machine gonna make people poor? No, economic progress and productivity makes people richer, not poor. And so we're going to see amazing. And by the way, not just in the area of production, because literally in the next 10 years we'll have technology through the blind people will be able to see, people in wheelchairs will be able to rise up and walk, we'll be able to cure cancer. I mean, this is an incredible future we're facing, and it's going to not just be good for our health, but our wealth as well.
Okay, so we have two options, Steve Keen, finally. One is a global depression over the next few decades. The other one is a global explosion of euphoric joy and success and triumph. So what do you say?
Remember the old movies? Remember the old moving sliding doors? Okay?
Yes.
You make it through the train, you don't make it through the train.
Yes.
I think we're at a sliding doors moment.
Stephen Moore sat in that studio and called this war a humanitarian mission. So let me give you the humanitarian price tag. According to Pentagon briefings to Congress, Operation Epic Fury cost $11.3 billion in its first 6 days alone. $1 billion a day. And Harvard public policy professor Linda Bilmes, who accurately predicted the true cost of the Iraq War being 4 times the official estimate, said on the record in April of 2026, "I am certain we will reach $1 trillion for the Iran war. $1 trillion borrowed against your future, against your kids' future." While the White House called it a temporary disruption. And here is what that money is doing to your life right now, not in 10 years. Right now, according to the International Energy Agency, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz triggered the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. Brent crude surged past $120 a barrel. Gulf states collectively lost 6.7 million barrels per day of production by March 10th, and gas prices in the United States jumped nearly 27 cents in a single week, the fastest weekly increase since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. That is not a geopolitical data point. That is the guy driving to work at 5:30 in the morning, doing the math in his head at the pump and coming up short. And here is what makes Stephen Moore's argument the most dishonest thing said in that entire debate. This war was launched without a formal declaration of war by Congress, violating Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, which grants the war power exclusively to Congress. The House voted 215 to 208 to limit Trump's war powers 100 days in. $1 billion a day, no congressional authorization. And the White House asked for $1.5 trillion added to the military budget for 2027, the largest proposed expansion of military spending since World War II. Steve Keen's math is not radical. It is arithmetic. A 10% fall in energy means a 10% fall in GDP. That is as big a downturn as the Great Depression. And Professor Jiang's point about China, that it has been quietly building energy self-sufficiency and internal infrastructure, while America has been spending 30 years bombing countries into rubble, that is not anti-American. That is a report card. America spent $8 trillion on the post-9/11 wars, lost every single one. And the same people who architected those losses are now calling Steve Keen delusional for reading the bill out loud. Stephen Moore can talk about the robotics revolution all he wants, but you cannot eat a robot, and you cannot fill your tank with optimism. I am Silas Miller. The wire does not go dark.
Good morning, morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we first of all?
Indeed, we do. A lot of updates for you about what we know with regard to the Iran deal. Trump making some interesting comments today about how Syria should actually be in charge of taking care of Hezbollah, not Israel. Netanyahu resisting, pulling out of Lebanon. So a lot to get to there. Trisha Parsi is going to join us to break down his understanding of the deal and how it came together, and also the deportation threats against him, which have been quite significant. We also are going to take a look at some new AI stories. Anthropic's Dario Amodei with some very terrifying and eyebrow-raising comments. Also, a major walkout from another graduation ceremony. This one, the CEO of Google was speaking. So that is quite a significant development there. We're taking a look also at the oil markets. Let's say that the deal signing happens this Friday, that they, in 60 days even, are able to come to some sort of agreement. Obviously, a lot of these things have, a lot of question marks around them. But even given the best case scenario, how long will it take for the oil markets to get back to normal? We've got some numbers and some data there to show you. We're also taking a look at the polls this morning and a very interesting clip of a MAGA grandma who says that the Trump economy is giving her literal panic attacks. So a lot to get to this morning. And for the premium subscribers, we'll also have the AMA live after we record the show.
That's right. If you want to watch it, breakingpoint.com. You can sign up and become a premium subscriber today. Everybody who's been supporting the show, thank you. We had a huge day yesterday, actually. So seriously, thank you to all of these viewers. Many of the new viewers who are here, go ahead and check out our premium service. If you're just watching this on YouTube, please hit subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening to the podcast, share an episode with a friend. But let's go ahead and start with Iran. So right now, what we are seeing is extraordinary new comments from President Trump, who is abroad attending the G7. There's a lot of different bilateral meetings. One was with Zelensky. This one was with the Emir of Qatar, where he appears to say and to shunt Israel under the bus in Lebanon, though, of course, Bibi Netanyahu is resisting. We'll show you that here in just a little bit. But here are his comments where he says that if Israel can't handle Hezbollah, maybe Al-Qaeda in Syria can. Let's take a listen.
Syria, he's pulled that country together amazingly quickly. He's very capable. And he's been very good for me. He's protected everything that I've asked for. He's done. And if Israel can't do the job without killing everyone else, he'll do the job. Syria will do the job.
He'll do the job. Syria will do the job. So we're going to ask Al-Qaeda to take on Hezbollah. Interesting. Let's go to the next one. This is from Trey Inks. He compiled all of Trump's comments throughout the day here on Israel and Hezbollah. He says, Israel is fighting Hezbollah too long. Too many people are being killed. You don't have to knock down an apartment house every time you're looking for somebody. There are a lot of people in those apartment houses. They're not all Hezbollah. I suggested to Israel to let Syria take care of Hezbollah. On Israel striking Hezbollah in Beirut, I did not like that. I let them know that. Says the attack was, quote, too much. If Israel can't do the job, he'll do the job. Syria will do the job. Bibi has to be more responsible with respect to Lebanon. I am not happy with the way Israel has handled themselves in Lebanon and Hezbollah. Israel would have blown up a long time ago had I not gotten involved. So that is interesting, to say the least. And remember, Hezbollah and Lebanon remain the keystone to this entire thing. The Iranians say it's in the memorandum of understanding. The Trump administration briefed a bunch of reporters yesterday. They say it's not in the memorandum of understanding. And yet there is still full-scale freakout because we have no idea what's in that memorandum of understanding. It hasn't been released, according to the vice president. It is, quote, a page and a half. The JCPOA, for reference, was, I think, 159 pages after it was released. But what we do know is that many of the key details, which we brought you all yesterday, which were reported by the Iranian side about what's in it for them, including a $300 billion reconstruction fund, do now appear to be confirmed by the vice president, who was on television yesterday. Let's take a listen.
The Iranians are saying that they're going to have access to a $300 billion reconstruction fund. True or false?
Well, and that's the sort of thing they could have access to, funded by the Gulf Coast Coalition, so long as they honor their end of the obligation. I think that one of the things you're going to see, Ed, and people have to be skeptical of this, is that the hardliners in the Iranian system will overemphasize the benefits that Iran gets while underemphasizing all the things that they have to concede and all the things they have to provide in order to get these benefits. So we absolutely are open to the Gulf Coast countries investing in the reconstruction of Iran, but only if Iran ends their nuclear program, ends their enriched stockpile of material, and is really open to an inspections and enforcement regime that gives the American people confidence they're never going to have a nuclear weapon. So I think the dance you're going to see, Ed, which is going to be interesting, is the Iranian media, especially the hardline media, they're going to talk a lot about what they get without talking about what they give. It's important for all of us to correct that record.
Correcting the record by confirming that the report is true. I mean, and listen, you spin it however you need. I don't care. All right. 300 billion around what we destroyed in the country. The bottom line is no sanctions, and you allow the money to flow, whether it's from America or a mysterious bank in Switzerland. Who was laying that out yesterday on the show about these Swiss banks that Qatar controls but doesn't really control and will transfer it? I don't give a shit which way you do it. All right. But the clear, honest truth is that when you lose a war, sometimes you got to pay the piper. And that's the truth. And the Israeli lobby in Washington is losing it over this. They should. Guess what? Iran's entire GDP in 2024 was $456 billion. So this is $300 billion in reconstruction funds, in addition to sanctions relief, in addition to making to requiring like intra-Gulf investment and basically de facto normalization of all of these countries' relations with Iran. And on top of that, for nuclear enrichment, that remains the biggest sticking point. And don't get me wrong, there's still going to be a ton of fights to be had in the interim 60 days. But to have that on the table for Iran, I understand now why they took the deal. But they demanded genuine, they demanded full-on reparations. We all thought that was a joke. It's not. It's now been confirmed here by the vice president. But this is the reality. This is the reality we have to grapple with. I'm fine with it. We should never have been here in the first place. Israel war lobby, you got what you deserve. I don't know what else to say.
And not only those one-time funds and the sanctions relief, obviously, but also an income in perpetuity, or not a toll, but a fee to transit the Strait of Hormuz is what looks like is going to be contemplated here. Going back to the piece about Lebanon and Israel and how central this is, and these disputed characterizations of what is in the memo of understanding, et cetera. Amwaj Media says that they got their hands on the first page of the memo of understanding. And Ryan tweeted this out. Paragraph 1 of the MOU, according to Amwaj Media, says Iran and the U.S., quote, and their allies in the current war, obviously that would include Israel, declare the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon, and undertake from now on not to initiate any war or any military operation against each other, to refrain from the threat or use of force against each other, and ensuring the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Lebanon. So perhaps that language is where there could be, I look at that and I say, okay, that means you have to withdraw from Lebanon. But perhaps the Israelis look at that and say, well, we can ensure the territorial integrity, but still keep our troops occupying on the ground in Lebanon. In any case, paragraph 1 is further described as elaborating how, quote, the final deal, the comprehensive agreement envisioned to be signed within 60 days of the initiation of talks on June 19th, will confirm the permanent termination of the war on all fronts, including in Lebanon.
Our favorite target on the show is, of course, Bill Maher. Real time with Bill Maher about 3 weeks ago. He happened to have Susan Rice on the show, and let's say he tried his normal talking points and they did not work.
So as you all know, Bill Maher is a little simp for Israel. He's also a little simp for Benjamin Netanyahu. And he is just a rabid Zionist and a rabid Israel supporter, to the point where he pretends like there wasn't a genocide in Gaza. He acts like Israel did virtually nothing wrong in Gaza. He acts like what they're doing in the West Bank is completely fine. He is really as loathsome as they come on this particular issue. Well, this mindset also bleeds over into his feelings on the Iran war. He's trying to split the difference and say, like, look, I support what Trump is doing because Iran is the core of every problem in the Middle East. But the other day, he also tried to come out and say, well, it didn't really work, so you should just get out of there. But he has on an Obama administration official here, Susan Rice. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Susan Rice, but in this instance, she's representing the Obama administration perspective on Iran, which happened to be completely and utterly correct and completely vindicated, right? So Listen to this, because Susan Rice absolutely fact mogs the shit out of Bill Maher and humiliates him in front of his own audience for his total ignorance on this topic that he has strong feelings on, but clearly doesn't know the first fucking thing about it. Because he's trying to argue that, like, you know, the Iran deal was a failure and that Iran was about to have nukes and that Netanyahu was right and Trump is right to do the war. And he just fucking hits a brick wall of truth and fails miserably. Listen to this.
Let me explain what we did and why I think it was the right thing and why I think, unfortunately, we're really on the wrong course right now. First of all, Iran, as you said, absolutely correctly, poses threats on multiple dimensions. Its missile program, its support for proxies in the region, its human rights violations. But the way it poses...
By the way, Rich, talking about Iran's human rights violations as we are shoving innocent immigrants into concentration camps and they're getting tortured and raped. And Israel is doing a genocide and fucking shooting children in the face and having right to grape protests. And we're going to talk about Iran's human rights violations. So this first part, the Iran fear-mongering, I don't like, but hold, because it gets much better.
A direct threat to Israel, to our allies in the region, to Europe, and potentially to the larger international community is if it were able to acquire a nuclear weapon, or weapons plural. And so back in 2013, we began to try an effort without using force, but using economic pressure and sanctions that brought Iran to the negotiating table. And after 2 years of negotiations resulted in a nuclear deal that prevented Iran from building a nuclear weapon.
Based on inspections.
Based on, not just inspections, based on taking 98% of their fissile material out of the country, shutting down their plutonium reactor, making it impossible for them to put in place the most highly sophisticated centrifuges.
And you know they weren't cheating?
We know it for two reasons, two ways. One, the intelligence community of the United States and even Israel validated that up until 2018 when the prior president pulled out.
Not Israel.
Yes. And secondly, that they were not cheating on the Iran nuclear deal.
That's not.
And secondly, the IAEA had, the International Atomic Energy Agency, had 24/7 intrusive inspections in all of Iran's nuclear facilities. So when the United States withdrew from the nuclear deal, the deal was being implemented fully. But even if you don't buy that...
Why wasn't if Netanyahu thought they weren't cheating, why was he so adamant to get out of the deal?
Because he's a fucking liar, Bill. He's a liar, you idiot, you dipshit, you moron. You still haven't figured out that Israel is interested only in the greater Israel project. They want to expand their borders. They want all of the West Bank. They want all of Gaza. They want probably all of Syria. They want parts of Egypt. They want Jordan. They want to expand their borders. The reason why Iran needs to be destroyed in order for them to do that is they're the only regional actor with the power to push back against them. Iran funds Hezbollah, Iran funds Hamas, it funds resistance to Israel, it is opposed to Israel. They are blocking Israel from creating their greater Israel plan, from implementing their greater Israel plan. Okay, that's what's going on here. So what does Netanyahu do? He can't just say that. He can't just say, we're a settler colonial project and we're interested in doing expansionism and stealing more and more sovereign territory from innocent people in innocent countries. They can't say that. So what you do is you lie. And if you're, oh, they're lying, they actually have a nuclear weapon or they're very close to a nuclear weapon. He's been saying that since fucking like 1980 something, bro. He's been on TV. He's been saying it for sure. There's, compilations going back to at least the 1990s. Oh, they're a month away from a nuke. They're 2 months away from a nuke. They're a couple of weeks away from a nuke. He's been saying this forever. He's been lying every single step of the way. So you can't say we want to steal the land. So you say they have a nuke, and the implication is they're about to use it. He's implied or outright said that they're going to nuke Israel or they're going to nuke the U.S. Lie, to try to make the U.S. go in there and do his dirty work and overthrow the Iranian government and make it so that Iran is a failed state. So you have, warring factions in the streets and warlords running the country, and you turn it into fucking Libya where there's open slave markets. This way they can dominate the region. That's the idea. And here he is going, but Netanyahu, why would Netanyahu say this? Because he's fucking lying. You dumb fuck. You dumb old fuck.
Even if you don't buy that.
Why wasn't if Netanyahu thought they weren't cheating, why was he so adamant to get out of the deal?
Because this is the right question. It gets back to your original point. It wasn't just about nuclear in the minds of the Israelis.
Oh, so now you even have the Obama administration officials who were right on this issue and solved this issue. Even they're now coming out and saying, this had nothing to do with nuclear stuff, did it? Because we solved that. If you cared about Iran becoming nuclear, then this deal quite literally, just factually, empirically, objectively solved it. Where we had the IAEA go in there all the time, make sure they weren't enriching past a certain point. They can only enrich for power for their power grid and for scientific research. And it was locked down. It was done. It was over. It was a wrap. It was taken off the table as an issue. They followed the deal over a dozen times, verified by the IAEA. Every time they went in there, they said they're following a deal. And what happened? Trump got in there in 2018 and he ripped up the deal that they were following and they were abiding by. He ripped up the deal and he spit in their eye. Well, if you're them, you'd be crazy not to build nukes then, right? Because what the U.S. and Israel are showing is you're hostile. You're not actually interested in peace. You say we're not interested in peace. You're not actually interested in peace because we're doing what you want vis-a-vis nuclear and it's not enough for you, right? And so when even the Obama officials are admitting, like, yeah, the aggressor here is Netanyahu. He's the aggressor. Israel is the aggressor. That has nothing to do with nuclear.
In the minds of the Israelis.
So he was lying when he
No,
said
not lying.
Well, that's what he said to me.
Yes, he was.
He said, but we don't agree. We don't believe that they're not cheating.
Because
they're going to get a weapon and we got to get it.
And when we had a mechanism in place to prevent them from getting it, he urged President Trump to get out of the deal.
Yep.
They got out of the deal. And what happened? Iran built up its arsenal. Now they have 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium.
Right. As they should.
Enough for 10 bombs.
Right.
They have a sophisticated missile program. They now control the Strait of Hormuz.
So in other words, y'all fucked up by pulling out of that fucking deal.
And they are tanking the global economy as a consequence. And what have we done? We went to war, and we have not either dealt with the nuclear program or verifiably dealt with the missile program or the proxy problem.
So understand, the other thing that pisses me off is this implication from Maher. Oh, well, if they have a nuke, they're obviously going to offensively use it against us or Israel or both. That's the implication. And that's the thing that I fucking can't stand. And let me be clear, that 100% stems from his Islamophobia and his bigotry. 100%. Because any reasonable person who's objectively looking at the situation will come to the inevitable conclusion that the only reason Iran wants a nuke is to establish deterrence against Western aggression. Let me repeat that. The only reason Iran would want a nuke is to establish deterrence against Western aggression. They would be insane to not have a nuke. Knowing now that Israel and the U.S. will repeatedly, illegally, and offensively attack them and bomb their schools and hospitals and bridges and steel factories and petrochemical plants and everything under the sun. So, if anything, they've been vindicated every step of the way. But here's somebody who knows about the politics of the nuclear agreement and explains it to Bill Maher like he's a baby. And Bill Maher still can't fucking get it through his fat, disgusting head. It is insane, bro. And let me be clear about something else, too. If you fancy yourself a Democrat and you were opposed to the Obama deal, then you're really not a Democrat. This is one of those like defining issues. Because now we have an illegal war being waged against Iran, a country that didn't attack us or Israel. They were attacked first. And I'm sorry, but this is not a Democratic position. If you're taking this position, it is a neocon, warmonger, right-wing, MAGA position. And so anybody who's in the Democratic Party, and there's a lot of Israel first Democrats in the Democratic Party, sorry, you're not on the team if you don't agree with Susan Rice here. Bill Maher, you're not on the team. You're a fucking Netanyahu cuck boy. You're an Israel cuck boy. And that was the smackdown being laid on Bill Maher on this issue that he knows absolutely nothing about, man. As the Tennessee Holler says, it's genuinely wild to see how ignorant Bill Maher still is on this topic. He has fully swallowed the Trump-Netanyahu line on Iran and seems genuinely shocked to hear the truth. Bibi was against the Iran deal because it was working. He and his allies wanted war, not peace. That's exactly correct. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
Oh, hush it. We like to make fun of our friend Bill Maher here. We've been saying for years, maybe Bill Maher would benefit from reading some Edward Said. Of course, he had a TV show when Edward Said was alive, and you can go see if Edward Said showed up. He had a show when Noam Chomsky was still alive, but not able to speak. Bill Maher definitely never invited him on either. And we can go back to our compilation where Bill Maher invited somebody like Cornell or Glenn Greenwald, etc. on, and we saw what happened. At any rate, we're going to end the show with that. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.
I chased my enemies and caught them. I did not stop until they were conquered. I struck them down so they could not get up. They fell beneath my feet. You have armed me with strength for the battle. You have subdued my enemies under my feet. You placed my foot on their necks. I have destroyed all who hated me. They called for help, but no one came to their rescue. They even cried to the Lord, but he refused to answer. I ground them as fine as dust in the wind. I swept them into the gutter like dirt. You gave me victory over my accusers. You appointed me ruler over nations. People I don't even know now serve me. As soon as they hear of me, they submit. Foreign nations cringe before me.
Rest in peace to all the real black leaders. We gon' die for them. Different breed of youngins, they in training, ain't no stopping them. Stay quick with rolling clips, no movies got a lot of them. They don't ready itch to get them demons right about them. No marching, we ain't dreaming. We ain't Martin Luther King, and ain't no we shall overcome. We ain't into all that singing, we just swinging. Watch your back, repping red and green and black. We ain't always out on defense, we play offense on the deck. If they practicing that evil, we distribute pain as equal. Wage and get back for my people. Man, it's up. And it's stuck. All our soldiers, PhDs, they professors, they gon' teach you. Heard you love to pray to God, we gon' make sure that he meet you. Second, keep him running, have you moving, got you right on track. Catch him on that corner with 2 quarters, got him running back. It's a dog world, shorty, so you cannot trust the cat. Merlin Marcus Garvey, RBG, the real men in black. The liquor and the drugs is it plan to get us messed up. But Amos Wilson gave us the blueprint, it's time to step up. A real man stay solid and it's polished from the neck up. Cause real wars waging academia, time to test up. King Leopold taught 10 million Africans lessons. They may come dressed as freedom, but be strapped with oppression. It's a game of aggression, economics with watching. Listen up, they working day and night to stop your progression. Took your home, took your soul, took your gold. Better keep that heat, cause they cold. They acting like they friends, but they foe. They slaughtered up the children and the old. Their mission, take your power, eat you whole. They offended by my actions cause I'm taking them on. Seeing clearly through the method, so I'm reading along. They know we become a threat when we creating the bomb. So they want us weak, divided, but united, strong. Mentally supremacy, I checkmate with a pawn. Can't put questions on my ethics, we just righting the wrong. Ain't no more committing a crime, taking back what belong. They don't like it when we play that game, we taking the arms. This is more than a song, this intellectual weaponry. Game of just no checking me, speak the truth, they threaten me. Ready for any and everything that lies ahead of me. Student of the law, I keep the Second Amendment next to me. Ain't asking if they ready, but yeah, they better be. Mobilization, information, and knowledge, that's the key. No more taking disrespect, yeah, that's a threat, respectfully. Ain't no more taking them knees, we stay ready, dreading deeds. Damn.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Of course, if you want to support the show, you can do so by going to www.patreon.com and getting a membership for as little as $3 a month. Again, that's www.patreon.com/The Jerome McClain Show.
Yeah.
The Jerome McClain Show is fully listener-supported, independent media that won't lead you to tribalism. Get a membership and support independent media at www.patreon.com/The Jerome McClain Show.